WBNG TV, your news leader. This is Action News at 6.
We've been dealing with natural disasters of a near biblical proportion.
Action News travels across the Twin Tiers for a look at areas hit hardest by flooding and those still preparing for the worst. Thousands have been forced from their homes, while others have been cut off from major roadways by historic flood levels.
The worst experiences I ever had because there was nothing I could do.
We will talk live with emergency services about what is happening now and look at the forecast to see what is still expected tonight. Good evening, everyone. I'm Candace Chapman. Overflowing levees, rising water levels, evacuation orders, and rescue. The rain may have taken a break. Those water levels still continuing to rise. We begin our coverage tonight with Brett Chellis, Broome County's Director of Emergency Services, who joins us now on the phone. And thank you so much for joining us, Brett.
You're welcome, Candace.
Let's start with downtown Binghamton. A lot of people in those areas and business owners wondering what's happening there right now.
We have a number of areas downtown that when water came over the flood walls, did flood the areas in some of the, down near the arena and that corner near Confluence Park. Some of the streets are flooded in that area. Also some other streets, elsewhere in the city.
So we should be telling people maybe not to expect to go back in there tomorrow to check on it, or we just don't know yet?
We have to basically, nobody is to re-enter any of the flooded areas at this time. The water, they must know that the rivers are still rising, although the rate of rise is slowed dramatically and they're nearing their crest. They're still inching up, and water continues to come over the flood wall system and enter certain parts of the city. So none of the areas that have been flooded are safe to be reoccupied until the city deems them safe.
All right. Now you say water over the flood walls, but at this point we don't have any ideas of breaks in the walls or any levees.
No, we've investigated reports today of water coming through the walls. Sometimes that's a natural occurrence with some of the seams in the structures. We did investigate what was, we had a report of it failing in one part of the city, and we responded to that, and there is a crack in the flood wall, but there doesn't seem to be any serious compromise.
All right. No fatalities that we've heard of so far?
No, not in Broome County. We have no reported fatalities so far, although I must, note that we are still in the search and rescue mode. We are still checking homes to make sure everybody got out, and we're investigating things.
All right.
But at this time, we have nothing confirmed or no reports of a fatality.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us, Brett, for that update.
You're welcome.
All right.
Yep, bye.
The waters may be cresting in some places, not everywhere yet. Some places waiting for the water to go back down again before they can assess the damage. Action News reporter Matt Markham is live in Johnson City.
Boy, Candace, in any of the towns, of anybody who's watching tonight, you probably notice a huge difference between this time yesterday and this time today. Perfect example right here in Johnson City. This is North Baldwin Street. When we were here reporting live last night, we were halfway down the street and fine. Today, you can't even get down the street. There have been problems with flooding throughout the area today, and Johnson City got its fair share of it. There were buildings over on Harry L. Drive, over by Gander Mountain, the Christmas tree shops underwater, over by the mall. The parking lot was underwater in certain areas, and you saw the same problem all over the village. There were also some folks being evacuated from their homes on the other side of 17. Crews came from far away to help.
We were told it was going to be a 2-day deployment, minimum 2-day deployment, so we expect to be here at least 2 days, if not longer.
Just want to mention quick that the situation seems to be getting a little bit better in Johnson City, because look at where the water is now. It's right about over here. This is where the water came at its highest mark. Now, that doesn't mean the entire area is safe. We're not expecting the rivers to crest, as Doug's probably been talking about, in Binghamton until maybe about 8 o'clock tonight. But of course, when you see water like this, don't drive through it. You don't know what's under it. And we are live in Johnson City tonight. I'm Matt Markham, WBNG TV Action News. Candace.
Thank you, Matt. Action News finally in Owego tonight. Until now, all access roads to get into Tioga County, at least from our station, had been closed to us. These are our first pictures heading in. This is Catactonk Creek. Now looks like a raging river in downtown Owego. In all directions, roads are flooded, traffic lights out. Only emergency crews can be seen on the roads. Route 96 is one that is not accessible as water flows over the road and into nearby homes at an area trailer park. And we will have this video back later for tonight on Action News. When it rains, it pours, and then it floods, as we have seen. Vestal, also one of the many areas struggling to stay afloat. People still evacuating and gathering at the nearest shelters there. Action News reporter Brandy Devine was in Vestal, and she has the latest on the town's flood status.
Candace, I went back to Vestal this afternoon to see the progress of the levee, and what I saw wasn't good. Vestal is still under a serious threat of further flooding. The levee behind Subway on the Parkway continues to overspill. I watched the water levels increase just within the hour I spent by the levee. People lined up at the rail trail watching the water rise along with me with a similar reaction of disbelief. The rail trail playground is almost completely underwater. One couple who lives nearby said they've lived in Vestal all of their lives and say, what flood of 2006?
Brandy, sounds horrible, of course, everywhere. What did some of these other areas of Vestal look like?
Well, they weren't much better either. The Town Square Mall was extremely flooded, and Take a Break Restaurant and Legacy Pete's Diner are both underwater, reaching the tops of buildings and heading up towards the traffic lights. The excess water and levee overflows and has caused people in other parts of Vestal to have to evacuate. The people of Vestal say it will be the flood of 2011 that people are talking about for years to come. The town also says that the water is still safe in Vestal to drink and has not been shut off. Candace, back to you.
All right, thank you, Brandy. Although people have been advised to leave their homes for more than 24 hours, people are still finding themselves trapped by rising waters. In West Endicott, rescuers wade into the floodwaters here at the West Endicott Bridge and Nanticoke Drive. They eventually had to deploy a boat to rescue a woman in the water. We're told she'd been holding onto a tree for some time. Also in Endicott, Ty Cobb Stadium no longer in play. The football field behind Union Endicott High School is several feet underwater. UE installed new turf this year for a multi-purpose field. Also, the Boys and Girls Club of Western Broome nearby also taking on water. Delaware County's taken a double hit over the past 2 weeks. More flood damage on top of what Hurricane Irene caused. Steve Finch is the Deputy Director of Emergency Services in Delaware County. He joins us now by phone. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Finch.
You're welcome.
Let me ask you, how are you and the other emergency responders doing? You just have come through one disaster and then here is another.
It's been a very trying time. Obviously, we'll get through it. Things are looking better on the eastern part of the county, and now the western part of the county is being severely hit, obviously.
Yeah, what are some of those areas in the western part of the county?
Sydney, especially the Sydney area, village of Sydney, town of Sydney are both under a state of emergency. The waters continue to rise there from Susquehanna. They've conducted evacuations throughout the day and will be sheltering several hundred people overnight until the waters recede.
And again, what do you know about the well-being of people there? Everyone's safe, or have you had any other serious fatalities, injuries? Do you know yet?
No fatalities or injuries that we know of. Fortunately, we had some time to prepare for this, and evacuations could take place prior to the flooding beginning.
All right. And how long do you feel that this is going to be the case before people can begin to kind of get back to these areas and see their damage?
We don't expect the waters to crest in Sydney until later this evening, and then it's going to be a slow time for them to recede. So it'll be several days before people can get back in and assess what they've got and the damage.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Finch. We wish you and, of course, people everywhere suffering tonight all the best.
Thanks, Candace.
And as we said earlier, rain not currently the issue, but still keeping an eye on what could come. Meteorologist Doug Peters joins us from the Storm Tracker Weather Center.
Yeah, Candace, as Brandy was alluding to earlier, we do have some overtopping of some levees around the Twin Tiers, and sometimes this could lead to some other issues with the levees, but right now all the levees are holding, but we're certainly going to keep an eye on them as we are pretty close to the crests around the Twin Tiers. Live Storm Tracker radar looks beautiful. This is just false return of ground clutter, only maybe a couple isolated spotty showers, and that's what we're going to continue to see during the rest of the overnight period. I'm going to bring to you a few river stages here now, then I'll bring you a few more coming up a little bit later on the broadcast. Susquehanna, Unadilla, 16.4 feet. We're expecting a crest at 2 a.m. here tonight. Bainbridge, 26.7 feet at 8 p.m. on Thursday. Conklin, near record stage at 25 feet later on tonight at 2 a.m. So we take a look at a couple more stages here. We've got some good news for the west branch of the Delaware. It is now falling, and the east branch of Harvard is now holding steady and should begin to drop off here rather shortly. I also have a few updated river crests for you, which also includes steady or falling stages. I'll bring those to you in just a few minutes, Candace.
All right, thank you, Doug. An update on the shelters when we come back. From the Friends of Natural Gas Drilling to the opponents of hydrofracking, demonstrators descend on downtown Binghamton for the EPA's public hearings.
We're prepared, if it should change, and we're expecting more people for this evening session.
And as people continue to arrive by car or by foot to the Forum Theater, police work to keep order outside.
Plus, heading inside, we'll hear from people testifying to the EPA. I'm Leidana with the story that's coming up.
Good evening. I'm Candace Chapman, and thank you for joining us for this edition of Action News at 6 on the Binghamton CW. Action News is bringing you live team coverage of the first day of Environmental Protection Agency hearings in Binghamton. The question the EPA is looking to answer: is a technique used in the natural gas drilling process called hydrofracking safe? This debate is playing out in our region, where drilling into the Marcellus Shale is taking place in Pennsylvania, but on hold in New York. We begin with Action News reporter Leidana, who has listened to the first testimony at the Forum Theater in Binghamton.
And Candace, the second session of the public hearings is just beginning here at the Forum. About 100 people are set to speak until 10 o'clock tonight. Another 100 people already spoke this afternoon, and many more are scheduled for Wednesday. This is the fourth and final public hearing on hydrofracking scheduled across the country. The Environmental Protection Agency wants to take in all of these comments in order to come up with a plan that establishes a sound and scientific study on hydrofracking. Stage in Binghamton this week. Thousands packed their way into the Forum Theater Monday to either speak or listen to concerns and comments on the horizontal gas drilling process called hydrofracking. Concerns raised ranged from air pollution.
I also request that the EPA assess the cumulative impacts of air pollution and ground level ozone created by this gas extraction process.
2 reports of water problems in Susquehanna and Bradford counties.
These already impacted communities must be included. After all, if you want to see the effects of processes, you must look where the processes have been used and have already damaged the environment.
These comments will help the EPA determine how broad of a study it will conduct on hydrofracking, a technique used to release natural gas from rock formations thousands of feet underground by injecting millions of gallons of water at a high pressure mixed with chemicals and sand.
Hydraulic fracturing is something that has changed over time. Early in its use, it was used mostly for vertical wells. Now it's being used for horizontal drilling, and it's being used in new places. And so EPA believes that it needs to be studied in order to determine whether or not there is an impact on drinking water.
Clean drinking water is of keen interest here in the Twin Tiers as gas drilling companies flock to the lucrative Marcellus Shale. Travis Windle is the spokesman for the Marcellus Shale Coalition.
We believe strongly that if this study is grounded in facts and straightforward scientific analysis, it's going to arrive at the same conclusion that the 2004 study arrived at, that a host of other independent studies have arrived at, and that's that hydraulic fracturing has never contaminated groundwater.
One consistent idea that shined through at the hearing is that the study must be thoroughly detailed and complete and not take forever to finish.
In the case of a doctor's patient, it's one patient's life. In the case of this situation, it's many, many lives.
Many lives that the EPA wants to protect. Last week, it asked 9 gas drilling companies to release the chemicals it uses in the hydrofracking process. So far, the EPA tells me it's gotten a good response from the companies. Many say that they will disclose that information. As to when is still unknown. We're live at the Forum in downtown Binghamton. Leidana, WBNG TV, Action News.
Thank you, Lee. Now, that study is expected to begin in 2011 and be completed by the end of 2012, and it's expected to cost about $2 million. Hundreds of demonstrators gathered on Washington Street. Some made it into the hearings, while others stayed outside to show or shout their message. Our team coverage continues with Matt Markham. And Matt, where are these people coming from? What are they trying to get across to the public?
Okay, Candace, well, there are a few protesters still here, as you can see behind me, and the rain that you can obviously see is falling right here in downtown Binghamton has sent a couple of them inside for now, but there were many more here earlier today. They came from as far away as Ithaca to the north and Wayne County in Pennsylvania to the south, and their message, actually, they had one message that was in common. They want action, and they want it now.
Safe drilling now!
One side did it with shouts.
Safe drilling now!
The other sounding off more with a show of signs.
Each side of the block was more than just a staging area, but polar opposites on a debate that has more than one issue and more than one voice. That's why many stay outside through the hearings.
You can't get that much into 2 minutes. And we also want to have a chance to kind of make sure that the people who are just here to listen have a chance to react.
Though they didn't interact much with each other, each side presented its claim. Some are firmly for pro-responsible drilling, sure it can be done safely.
We're the original stewards of the land. We kept and protected the water resources. It's due to our efforts that the river is clean and the water is pristine.
And sure it must be done to save struggling taxpayers.
A lot of my friends who are farmers are at the verge of losing their farms. Okay, and meanwhile, we have this golden opportunity right under our feet to develop gas and be able to revitalize our community.
The response on the other side is a concern that the community will be torn apart by drilling in New York.
Just hope that we have some effect on getting some real appropriate oversight as to what's going on with this.
And it is my hope that the EPA starts to act immediately, because there's enough evidence, there's enough complaints. There are thousands of complaints across the country about what's happening with hydraulic fracturing.
A country that is also looking for energy alternatives.
We can replace those with natural gas, a clean energy that produces much less pollution.
But others say natural gas is not the only alternative solution.
You know, in a way, I think the rain has almost intensified some of the protesters here. They're still going, and those on both sides of the debate say that they want the EPA to act quickly, but they also understand that this is a very complicated issue, and they want the public to understand both sides of the drilling debate. And for those both sides, they'll be back here again Wednesday as the hearings continue. We're live in downtown Binghamton tonight. Matt Markham, WBNG TV Action News. Candace.
Thank you, Matt. Several elected leaders took a turn at the podium to speak before the EPA as well. Congressman Maurice Hinchey was the very first speaker, urging the EPA to conduct a comprehensive study. Other speakers included the Broome County Executive Barbara Fiala, Binghamton Mayor Matt Ryan, and Congressman Michael Arcuri today. And here's what some of them had to say.
And we are confident that with the proper supervision and regulations in place, we can develop this new industry in our region, do it safely, and create new investments and new jobs. All that we ask is that this study be focused and not take forever to complete.
This study must be comprehensive and look at all ways that drinking water supplies and non-drinking water supplies can be impacted by natural gas drilling.
And coming up tonight on WBNG TV's Action News at 11, we'll hear from some more politicians, including Assemblywoman Donna Lupardo. The city of Binghamton beefing up security in and outside the forum. Action News reporter Haley Burton is live downtown to tell us how the police are dealing with the swarm of people coming in.
Calm and smooth. That's how Binghamton police say things have been here outside the Forum Theater. Though there have been crowd on both sides of the drilling debate here on Washington Street, police say it's not been the big showdown that they planned for. Numbers from 1,800 to 10,000 people were thrown around to come here to the Forum Theater. But so far, according to Police Chief Joseph Zukoski, only about 400 people have attended. But police presence is still in full force. There's 12 Binghamton police officers, plus command staff and investigators outside the venue, plus 16 Broome security inside. Zukoski says other than a little yelling back and forth between people of opposing sides, quiet is the word for the hearings thus far.
Went very smoothly, without incident, and we'll just hope that's the way it goes. But we don't expect that, there could be one or two bad apples, just like when you draw any large crowd, but the majority of these people understand the other side's rights, although it is very volatile, and they have strong emotions on each side.
Zukoski also says traffic and road closures were a major concern for the city, but so far it seems to be flowing pretty smoothly. Now, a bigger crowd was expected here for tonight's evening session. With all the rain and all of that, there's not many people heading inside the forum. only about 15 people right before the started, about 5 minutes till 6, but Binghamton police say they are prepared. Live outside the Forum Theater in Binghamton, Haley Burton, WBNG TV Action News.
All right, thank you, Haley. Big crowds mean big business for downtown Binghamton restaurants and hotels. The Binghamton Regency on Water Street is filled with people attending the hearings. The general manager, Tilly Carbo, says that the number of hotel guests is far above average. She says people from all over the state have booked rooms. Even some people locally from Greene came just to be closer to the venue. The Lost Dog Cafe brought in extra staff just for today. For lunch, the restaurant served a few people who were attending the hearings.
So far, it's been pretty calm. People started coming in to get coffee about 11 o'clock this morning. And actually, this looks like a typical Monday here, so I don't know if they haven't taken their lunch yet, but we're preparing for, a lot of people.
To be busier tonight and plan to call in even more help for the dinner crowd. So some storm warnings were issued for parts of our area this afternoon. What's it looking like for tonight? Here's meteorologist Doug Peters with an update from the Storm Tracker Weather Center.
Yeah, Cass, things got a little bit hairy this afternoon. We did have one tornado warning issued for Susquehanna and into Wayne County, but that has yet produced any damage reports as far as that's concerned. But we did see numerous reports of hail. You can always check things out on UNews, and you can see some scattered showers out there right now. But overall, we should see a decreasing trend to all of the shower activity here tonight. I'll be back with more on your forecast in a few minutes.
All right, thank you, Doug. So while those hearings on drilling continue in downtown Binghamton, what will state lawmakers do in Albany? Next, the Capitol Report looks at how lawmakers may try to step in to regulate hydrofracking in New York. Plus, a candidate for state assembly apologizes for illegally obtaining petition signatures. You're watching WBNG TV's Action News at 6. People with flood damage or disruption can now connect with FEMA face-to-face. And what's the future of those damaged homes in the Twin Tiers? People make the tough choice to either rebuild or relocate. And a local school is helping people wash away some of their flood stress. Find out how a few rolls of quarters are going a long way. Good evening. I'm Candace Chapman. Thank you for joining us tonight. Help is here for the Twin Tiers residents. FEMA has started to distribute funds to counties and residents cleaning up from the flood of 2011. It's also here answering your questions. Action News reporter Matt Markham is live in Johnson City with the latest.
Candace, a FEMA Disaster Relief Center will open here at the Johnson City Justice Building tomorrow, and it'll offer face-to-face assistance to anybody who's been a flood victim. And that's probably the best thing about this, to actually be able to sit down and speak to somebody face-to-face, not over the phone. That's probably the biggest advantage. Any of the questions you have will be answered here on the spot. Homeowners and businesses are both eligible for assistance through the Small Business Administration. That is one of several agencies here. Long-term, low-interest loans are available through the SBA, with possibly as much as $2 million in loans paid over a 30-year time period. Though many people are expected here, FEMA says it can handle the crowd.
This is not going to be a mob scene. We're going to take all the time that anybody needs to answer their specific questions and meet their specific needs.
This FEMA Center will be open from 8 in the morning to 8 at night for as many days as needed, but there are also disaster centers opening up throughout the area. The one that we know of right now, also opening tomorrow, is in Nichols, and that'll be located at the elementary school. One of the other services that will be here for flood victims is psychological counseling. You know, the devastation from the flood is everywhere you turn, but the mental distress from the flood is just as profound. We're here in Johnson City tonight. I'm Matt Markham, WBNG TV Action News.
All right, thank you, Matt. We'll keep you updated as more of those centers open. After the floodwaters ripped through area businesses and homes about a week and a half ago, some area companies are packing their bags and heading out of the Twin Tiers. Synergy Solutions is an outsourced call center that employs more than 200 people at their Johnson City office. The company says it will not return to the area. It has been in the community since 2000. The company says only 10 to 15 employees plan to relocate to another office. The rest are now out of a job.
We were not hit in 06, but we, for some reason, were hit pretty hard here in 2011. When we do 24-hour customer service for major banks and healthcare companies, and our clients would have a serious concern if we reopened in our existing building.
Coming up tonight on Action News 11, we will find out what some other area business plans are after the flood. While cleaning up flood damage, the question comes what to do next, rebuild or relocate. Area realtors are busy taking calls from prospective buyers and renters affected by the floods. Action News reporter Haley Burton has that story.
People could guarantee you there's no more floods. We'd make an effort.
Dennis Payton says it would be hard to walk away from Fairmont Park, his garden, his neighbors, his house. He bought it just about 16 months ago.
I don't know if we have that facility, depending on FEMA, depending on what we could get back from this house, I don't know. It may well be too costly to do anything with the place.
Others are asking the same question. Should they stay and rebuild or buy new? But many are thinking short term.
We've had a lot of people calling about rent. We've had a lot of people calling about, I think I'm not going to rehab the house no matter what happens, I want to buy another house. There's a lot of it going on. The rentals are the thing that's the hardest. I mean, there's houses for sale, so you can oftentimes find someone a house.
Realtor say, this is Kathy, may I help you?
What are people looking for?
Real estate has always been location, location, location. What's important today about location, I think psychologically people want to be dry and away from water. On the other side, on the investor side, they are looking at this as an opportunity. Maybe they can jump in and pick up some homes cheaply, which we are seeing also.
And realtors say now is the time to buy.
Interest rates are phenomenally low. We're seeing interest rates that have actually dipped into the high threes, 3.875. We're seeing 4%, 30-year fixed rate.
But some people aren't buying in to buy again.
Master 200 amp panel was totally underwater. We were about 3 inches above the second floor up here.
Gary Morse has lived on Poplar Street since 2002, and he says he's still not going anywhere.
We are going to rebuild. The 06 flood, it was terrible. We rebuilt the house so it was really strong. So it was a lucky thing because all we had to do basically was tear out all the walls, you know, the drywall, the insulation, clean everything out, and now we're rebuilding right now. I hope we can save it. I really do, because it's a great place to be.
In the town of Union, Haley Burton, WBNG-TV, Action News.
Realtors also say over the next few months they expect the number of available homes for sale will drop, which will put a strain on the supply that could increase the price of homes on the market. People who are staying are forced to hit the streets to buy all of the necessities to rebuild, and for many that's a shopping spree that may not be a fun one. Action News reporter Brandy Devine's live in the newsroom to tell us what people are buying.
Candace, I spoke to Olam's, Ellis Brothers, and America's Attic, who all agree that replacing household items after this flood is difficult, but it doesn't have to be expensive. Olam's is selling floor samples to keep up with its sales. They've even created worksheets to help people organize what they need and how much of it. Places like Ellis Brothers and America's Attic say they're marking down all of their in-store items, and they are saying that they also agree that, you know, if people are ready, they have what they need.
We've had people coming in that have no place to sleep. They have nothing to sleep on. They don't have dressers. They don't have kitchen tables. Things that we take for granted every day, they don't have.
It's certainly heartbreaking for the community, and what we've been trying to do for them is assess what the actual loss is.
We have tractor trailers coming to our distribution center daily, especially on washers and dryers and water heaters, dehumidifiers.
Many stores say their plan is to make delivery time as quick as possible, getting people what they need quickly.
Of course, Granny, but replacing everything is a daunting and expensive ordeal, even with the store help and the financing.
Yes, America's Attic said that they had someone come in to sell their wedding ring to buy one of those necessary items. What stores want you to know is they will work with you to prioritize and make sure you have the necessary paperwork for FEMA and insurance claims. Candace?
All right, thank you, Brandy. Hundreds of families look for a way to keep their clothes clean after losing their washer and dryers in the flood. Students at Maine Endwell School District are continuing to respond to that need by offering free laundry service. They've moved their operation now to Smart Wash Laundry in Endicott. Since they started last Monday, they've cleaned 2,300 loads of laundry. Donations of quarters and laundry detergent help make it possible.
We had a 6-year-old come in and drop off 2 huge tubs of laundry detergent that she had purchased with her birthday money. We have people bringing in, just a couple dollars in quarters, which is absolutely helpful, and then we've had people bring in a couple $100s in quarters.
Students continue to offer that service to anyone affected by the flood tonight until 8 p.m. and they'll be at the Smart Wash Laundromat in Endicott again tomorrow from 3 until 8. We saw a little rain last night. We could be seeing a little more soon. Meteorologist Doug Peters joins us from the Storm Tracker Weather Center.
Yeah, Candace, we could be looking at some rain developing as we head into later on tomorrow afternoon. Here's where it's coming from. This area of low pressure in the upper Great Lakes and actually the upper Midwest, and that's going to move into our area tomorrow. Now, here's a look at our weather headlines. Fog is going to be in the forecast tonight. We'll see a brief break in the rain showers here tonight and into tomorrow. The showers return tomorrow evening and continue into the weekend. More details in your 7-day forecast coming up in just a few minutes. Candace.
All right, Doug. Still to come, a look at the local job picture in the past month. Where is unemployment headed? And have you ever experienced loft living? The city of Binghamton inviting people to come take a tour of some downtown housing options. And that's ahead on Action News at 6.